Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I am coming to you live from Florida. And if this is your first time finding my content, I help people on a healing journey turn their darkest moments into stepping stones for growth, leading people from darkness to light. And today is Monday, which means it's book club day. So we will be doing book club. We're starting our book club. Today's the first day of this book with The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So those of you that are part of book club, as you come in, just put a 5 in the chat, high five me, let me know you're here. If you're catching the replay, just put replay. I will be looking at your comments, and this is interactive, whether you're live with me or not. So I just want to say we just finished The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. Hey Stacy, high five to you. We just finished The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. If you missed that book club, if you're interested in that book, super insightful, very profound work. I have all of the recordings. They're on my Instagram under like a series. You can scroll through my Facebook page and find them week by week, or hop onto my YouTube, which is just Danielle Matthews channel. And if you go to Danielle Matthews channel, you'll see a playlist that is all of those book club discussions. In that book, and I have a sense in this book as well, like you can come in and out. You don't have to have done it from start to finish. I mean, it's more profound to take that thread through the whole thing, but you can kind of come for one specific conversation because each chapter has so much. So, hey Candy, high five to you. Hey Charlotte, good day to you. Hello all of you joining over on Instagram as well. As you guys are coming in, give me a high five. Okay, so Kevin is reading Wayne Dyer right now and is catching up with us. Nice. Well, you'll have both going. So you can join into that book club whenever you want and come live with us, Kevin, on these. I'm glad to see you here. And I want to kind of just, for those of you in book club, morning Marie, my mom somehow got a different version than me. I think I sent the same link to her. I don't know what happened. So I wanted to know, hey Shelly, I wanted to know the place I told you to read. So I told you to read the introduction, and then for today, in my book, it got to the pause sign that he has, right before it says, freeing yourself from your mind. For me, that's page 14. What page is that for you guys? Or did some of you get the Audible? And then you have no idea. You're like, I don't know where I'm stopping, Danielle. I'm just reading. So yours, okay, Stacy's, it was page 17, where hers ended. Okay. All right. So because for the assignment tonight, the next piece is going to be just to finish chapter 1. So for me, that takes me to page 26. Chapter 2 starts on page 27. Stacy, where's your chapter 2 start? And everybody, where's your chapter 2 start? Just so, because it's going to be slightly confusing if we have different, okay, so same. Charlotte says she has an older version. Okay. Page 11 for some. Okay. All right, yeah, so it's going to be slightly confusing. I'm hoping that different versions still have the same order of things, and we'll just get the sense. Page 33, Stacy. Oh, interesting. Yeah, you must just have something more than we have. So I'm in the copy that ends on page 26. Chapter 1 ends on page 26. Shelley's got the same book too. So chapter 2 starts on page 27. So that's what I'm going to be referencing. So those of you with a different copy, you'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, don't worry. It's going to be what it is. We'll just figure it out as we go. Candy also, I don't know if you guys saw on Telegram, Candy said that her version, she also bought a journal with it, which has just some quotes and things to think about that you can then journal about. And anyway, that was on Amazon, she said. So she put the link, or she showed it, I think, in the Telegram chat. If you're not in Telegram, let me know and I can get you the Telegram link because that's where the conversation will kind of continue week to week for us all. All right. But there's a bunch of us here now, so I would like to kind of go through. What I think we'll do is just kind of go through. I'm going to pull out, I annotate as I read, and I write questions, I write comments, I write examples, because to me it's this stuff is really deep, and it requires stepping back and going, well, what does that mean in my life? Or how has that showed up in my life? Or, can I grasp what he's really saying? Because what he's saying, I think, are the secrets to the universe, the secrets to life. I think he's really, I called the chat Enlightened Minds because he is enlightening us. And the way that I'll kind of run this book club is I'll kind of be the guide of it, and then you guys just be ready in the chat. If you have insights, if you have questions, because a lot of this, as you bump up against it, it's going to make you question things. You're going to go, I don't quite get what he's saying. This makes no sense to me. Circle that stuff, come back to it, and put it in here so that we collectively can do that. And throughout the week, as you're reading, you can take a picture of something and say, this really hit home, and you just, in Telegram, you just reply to whatever I post. So each week I will post hey, read this is the assignment, and then you can reply to that, and that way we can all talk to one another, and we'll know that, hey, this is, chapter 1, where we're all kind of referencing. Does that sound good? All right. So let's dive in. The introduction. He talks about the origins of the book. And he says, I have little use for the past and rarely think about it. And that line, I literally started laughing, and I was like, I'm going to love this book. I am absolutely going to love this book. So I want to ask you, can you imagine living this way? And just in the chat, think about in a given day, what percentage, so think in percentage, so something out of 100, what percentage of your thoughts in a day are about the past? A conversation that happened previously, something that happened that you didn't like, a traumatic thing, what you ate, what somebody said about you, in the chat, don't be nervous. We're all here together to have this conversation. It's super insightful to think what percentage. Stacy says 80%. She believes 80% of what her mind takes her to throughout the day is past stuff. Charlotte says 30%. Yeah, if I were to think about this, I've been practicing being present for a long, long time, but it's amazing how the mind just goes back there and back there and back there and back there. And it's God dang it, can I cut the rope? Candy says probably too much. Tina says too much. Karen says 75%. Shelly says 50%. Kevin says, oh crap, way too much. Maybe 60%. Yeah, this, you're in good company. I think that is the human condition. 80% says Blanca. Hola, chica. Candy says some days more than others. It kind of depends on the situation I'm in. Yeah. But this is the predicament. So I love the fact that this was the first line in the book. I just went, this is great. And also, he's probably going to be offering us solutions for this. Juliet says, in stressful situations, my mind just reruns the past. Yep. Marie says, sometimes a small percent, but then other days my head goes all over the place. So 30%, and then other times a lot. Yeah. The book we have, Tim, is The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. That's the book we're reading. Okay, so then he goes on and he says, he starts to go into that night. He was 29, 30, and he starts to go into this night that he woke up and he was just completely miserable. His mind was just running. And it was just miserable thoughts, right? Or to the point where he was saying, what's the point? Why carry on with this struggle, right? What's the point of even continuing to live in this burden of misery? And then he has this question. I cannot live with myself any longer. And that statement, so it's not a question, it was a statement, I cannot live with myself any longer, literally for him just opened up well, wait a second, am I one or two? Who can't live with who? And if you get that, you get the essence of it all. He says, if I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me. The I and the self that I cannot live with. So maybe only one of them is real. This is something I'll never forget, the first yogic teaching that I ever heard. And we'll do this together. Maybe some of you have had me talk about this before, but I think it illustrates this point very well in case this is confusing. Close your eyes and just picture yourself standing on a beach. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. But picture yourself standing on this beach and, you see the ocean and it's just out in every single direction. You're seeing the sand beneath your toes, the waves coming in, and then you see a ship. Doesn't matter the kind of ship. Don't worry about what the ship looks like, but you see this ship. Maybe it's a sailboat for you. Maybe it's a tanker for you, whatever it is. Maybe it's a speedboat. and it's coming in on the right side of your vision. And it's moving across, and as it's moving, it starts to take up your entire vision. Like it's all that you can see. But it is moving. And so it continues to go, and then all of a sudden it disappears off the left side of your vision. And the question that was asked me by my teacher, who had been asked by yogis previous to her, was, are you the boat? Type yes in the chat if you think you're the boat. Type no if you're like, Danielle, what the heck are you talking about? I'm not the boat. Like, maybe it was like all in front of me and it was all I could see and it was all encompassing and like I felt like I almost was the boat because it was taking over everything. Right? Hopefully you all are saying no. Are you with me? And the yogis would say, it's the same thing with your thoughts. No, you are not your thoughts. You are the thing standing on the shore before, during, and after the thought. But sometimes the thoughts are so powerful, they're so big, they overtake everything that you mistakenly misidentify yourself as the thought. You think you're the boat because it's so big and it's so massive and it's so everywhere that you're like, you get lost in the boat. But you're the one observing it. Okay, so understand this. This is exactly what Eckhart Tolle experienced. He had this moment where he went, these ridiculous thoughts of complete misery that are making me want to kill myself, that are making me want to leave this world, why in the world am I engaging with that? Like, that's not a vessel I want to be on. I don't want to sail on that ship. And he had this moment where he realized he could disidentify and that he's not the boat. He's not those thoughts. And when he did that, he goes into this just beautiful explanation. I'm going to read it. He says, I was so stunned by this strange realization that my mind stopped. I was fully conscious, but there was no more thoughts. Then I felt drawn into what seemed like a vortex of energy. It was a slow movement at first and then accelerated. I was gripped by an intense fear and my body started to shake. I heard the words, resist nothing, as if spoken inside of my chest, not in the mind where it usually is. I could feel myself being sucked into a void. It felt as if the void was inside of myself rather than outside. Suddenly there was no more fear, and I let myself fall into that void. I have no recollection of what happened after that. Whoa. And then he wakes up and he describes just seeing the sun, and he says, without any thought, I knew that there is infinitely more to light than we realize. That soft luminosity filtering through the curtains was love itself. He woke up with this beautiful realization. I don't know, maybe some of you have had something like this occur. Okay, maybe I have had people that have done like plant medicine journeys, ayahuasca or Kambo or whatever, and they're able to get that mind that they're always identified with quiet and out of the way, and they have an experience that they can't even put words to. You know? This is something I just spent the last week in a yoga therapy training. I told you guys it was 12-hour days. I was fully immersed, and this is the technique. So the same teacher that taught me the boat thing, well, these yogis developed techniques to help you disidentify and to help you, get into the truth of who you are. That's what I spent the last week doing. It was, nothing short of profound. I am curious. Has anyone felt a hint of what he was talking about? If so, put a 1. If not, put a 2 if you feel like, but I understand what he's saying. Like, I haven't felt it myself, but I understand. Put a 1 if you felt something similar to this. Put a 2 if you're like, no, but I get it. Like, I intellectually understand. So Juliet says yes, she's experienced something. Stacy says no. Robin says yes. Christy is saying yes. Lou says I'm 1 too. I think I did, but maybe not. All right. Kevin is saying no, but I get it. Shelly's saying no, but I get it. Charlotte, no, but I get it. Karen, no, but I get it. Candy is saying yes, I've had an experience like this. Good morning, Steph. So, yeah, Blanca says yes. these things happen, and it's like you dip your toe in and you go, what was that? Like, that's what Wayne Dyer called the power of the intention, right? That's what he called that. I call it the divine. You call it whatever you want, but that's the thing we're talking about, and it's your true essence. And it's so beautiful when you can be in that space. There was a moment last week, halfway through the program, where we're doing deep work every day. I had so much energy flowing through my system. I couldn't sleep the night before. I slept for like 1 hour. I was just like on. And the next day I was like, I'm gonna be exhausted. I wasn't. I got home in our break. I had like a 2-hour break. I cleaned the entire house. And I was in a state of complete bliss. It was like, I said to my boyfriend, I said, there is nothing that could happen that I could get angry about right now. Like, I'm in such a pure place of absolute love and accept. Like, all I see is the absolute beauty in every single thing that I'm looking at. I didn't have words to describe it. So when I then read this, I went, holy cow. And he got to live in that space for years. And he said, then it just became normal. Yeah, Stacey, it was absolutely beautiful. This work last week changed me on a core level, like on a soul level. So the teacher in me. It's like, okay, how do I get this out to everybody else? So stay tuned, because things will happen. And what I love is, I've got techniques to help you get there, but we have this book. So with this book, he said, I walked around the city in utter amazement at the miracle of life on earth, as if I had just been born into this world. Think about a child. The complete awe that this kid has as it's interacting with the world. Like, everything is new, and it's like, oh my God, I have a foot, right? And like, it's in complete amazement when it figures out, like, that's my foot. Like, it's attached to me. Like everything, it's all inspiring to this being. That's your true essence. Like, babies are still as close to source, as close to the power of intention, as close to the divine as anything can be. And so being around them, that's why we smile, right? Because they're just shining this beautiful light of what he's talking about, of the space that he got to, because his ego just collapsed. It absolutely collapsed because of all of the pressure of what it was thinking. And the true self, right? The backdrop that had been there, that witness that had been watching this stuff on the beach, was like, yeah, no, we're just going to live as this now. We're going to live as this now. And Mickey Singer, if you guys have ever read The Surrender Experiment or Untethered Soul or Untethered Living, if you live in Florida, he's up in Gainesville. He founded the Temple of the Universe, and he speaks like 3 times a week. And I just went up there a couple weeks ago. And he said, like, he sat us down and he walked us through just like the reality of that we are unique beings having a unique experience. No one else on this planet of billions has had this experience. And, that we're a planet with a star in like a galaxy that's part of a solar system that's like bigger than you could ever imagine. And he's like, how are you just not in complete awe at your own existence? Like, when you think about it and you go to that vastness, it is awe-inspiring. That's why I love looking at the stars at night. And I'm fortunate to live out in Ocala National Forest. I can see the stars at night. And it makes you humble, right? You realize how vast it all is, how big it all is. And how much this mind stuff doesn't matter. The 80% of the thoughts that we're all having are just blah. They don't matter. They don't matter. So I wanted to ask, did any of you ever, or have questions about this? He says, my consciousness withdrew from its identification with the unhappy and deeply fearful self, which is ultimately a fiction of the mind. My suffering self immediately collapsed, just as if a plug had been pulled out of an inflatable toy. What was left then was my true nature, as ever, the I am. The consciousness in its pure state prior to identification with form, right? That baby, that's maybe one way to think about it. Does anybody have questions with that? Because that's it. I think that's where we're all trying to get, to live in this space and to be there. And he says people ask him all the time, can you give this to me? Can you show me how to get there? And his response, I thought, was so beautiful. He says, you have it already. Like, it's already there. That thing came with you to this life because that's who you are. And he says, you already have it. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise. Put a 5 in the chat. Give me a high five if your mind is too noisy. And you're like, wow. And maybe it's not with past stuff. Charlotte says yes. Maybe it's not with past stuff. Maybe your mind is busy about the future or about what somebody's thinking about you. Yeah, high five to you too, Stacy. Right? Our mind chatter is so loud. It's like sitting at the bottom of a lake and seeing the sunlight and knowing that that's there and that that's you, right? This connection. Like you might not be in the sun right now, but you're that same light. All right, so stay with me. So you're sitting on the bottom of this lake and there's that light above you, but then all of this clutter comes over the top of the lake, right? Just filmy, whatever stuff. And all of a sudden, you look up, and because you can't see the light anymore because of all that gunk, you think, oh, I'm that stuff. I'm that gunk, that worry, that past, that future, that anxiety, that busyness, that whatever. You're now identifying with that because it's all you can see, because it got in the way from you reaching up, from you actually seeing the truth of who you are, which is the sun, which is the source, which is the light. Like that's what he's saying. He's saying your mind is making so much noise that the top of your little lake is so covered with junk that you're misidentifying yourself as the junk, and it's making you anxious and it's making you depressed. You need to clear the debris. You need to clear the junk away, and then you will be able to be a reflection of the source that you are. You know, we got a gift at the end of our training that got blessed by Gurudev, and this was given to us to remind us that we are a reflection of the light. We are a reflection of the divine. We are the reflection of source. This is what lives in all of us. Right? This is what's sitting at the bottom of the lake that right now for you is, looking black and dark and gloomy because it's misidentifying. Totally misidentifying. Forgetting that it is the sun, it is the source. Stacy says, great analogy, right? It's like, that's what came to me as I was reading. Marie says, what's crazy is mine turns on at night when it's time to sleep, and so it's hard to get it to stop. You might want to try Yoga Nidra, guided meditation. It can help. It walks you out of your thoughts. Yeah. All right. Moving on. This thing is so good. We're never going to get through this book. I'm like every paragraph, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much depth. But he calls, I love this, spiritual pioneers. That's what you are. You are a spiritual pioneer. If you're listening to this right now, if it is resonating with you, it is because you are a spiritual pioneer. He defines that as people who are reaching a point where they become capable of breaking out of inherited collective mind patterns that have kept humans in bondage to suffering for eons. Because most of humanity is identified with the stuff on the top of the lake. And when you start to say, hey, you're crazy, hey, that's not you, hey, stop that, and you make some space and you reflect the source that you are, you identify with the light, people are going to look at you and be like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. You're a pioneer. Just know that. It can get lonely sometimes because you won't connect with people you used to connect with. Candy says, I have hundreds of those prisms hanging in my windows all over the house. Yay! Yes, that's what they're supposed to do. You got it. It's supposed to be a little hanger, but I put it on my desk because I was like, I want to remember this forever. This is a good thing. All right, so I'm moving on because I'm looking at the time. Okay. Let's get into, so that was the intro. I mean, what a beautiful thing that he got into. He kind of then got into a little bit of about religion. So I know some of you, go to church and are very religious. And what I loved is that he basically said, look, you have all of the teachings because these religions were founded on the same principles. It's just sometimes it's been misinterpreted or used in a way that it wasn't intended. But if you look at your scripture and if you look at what's actually being said, you'll see that it's reflected in exactly what's being said here. Just this morning, Gurudev, we have a twice a week, he does lecture. You all can join. It's Amrit Yoga Institute. You can join on YouTube. And this morning he was saying, Christ said, you must die to be reborn. And the analogy, just to continue ours, you must stop identifying with the things that you are not, the stuff at the top of the lake, in order to be reborn as the truth of who you are. right? That's what it's talking about. It's the same teaching. Same teaching. You know, he says, what did he say this morning? He said, Christ was a yogi. He was an enlightened yogi 2,000 years ago. And the yogis have been speaking this for 6,000 years. And this is the truth that Eckhart Tolle, I don't know, a few decades ago ran into. Like, it's all the same stuff because it's the truth of who we are. Lou says, think outside the box and color outside the lines. I love it. How do you get this thing? I don't know. Candy might know. It was a gift to me, but it's just like a little prism. For those on Instagram, I'll show you over here. And it has like a little hanger, so it's supposed to hang from the window. But yeah, a little reminder for all of us. Hey, Priscilla. Oh, someone is calling me. Why? I don't know. I'm going to decline it. Okay. So getting into chapter 1. That was just the intro. Like, wow, this human being that's about to teach us had a massive awakening. I love, he starts chapter 1. Who had heard that story before of the beggar? When you read chapter 1, had anyone looked at, like, had that come across anyone's path before? It had for me, but even as I was reading it, I was like, oh yeah. So, I mean, the essence of this story is there's a guy begging, has for decades on the side of the road saying, spare me some change, spare me some change, spare me some change, you know, can you help me, can you help me, can you help me? And finally, one day, somebody passes by and says, what are you sitting on? And the guy says, some old box, it doesn't matter. And he says, no, look inside the box. The beggar says, like, why? He says, look inside the box. And inside of the box is gold. All right? This person has been begging, looking to the external world for something, only to realize, oh my gosh, it's been within me. I've been sitting on it. Right? The analogy being, you just need to look within. And he says, you know, you might take offense to this and think, well, I'm not a beggar, but this is what he says. Those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it. I'm telling you, that's what I experienced last week. And now I don't want anything but that. I'm like having a hard time coming back to life. And I'm like, no, I want to just bring that to life, which I think is what we're supposed to do. But he says, even if they have gotten everything with material wealth, they are beggars. They are looking outside for scraps of pleasure, for fulfillment, for validation, for security, or even for love. While they have a treasure within that not only includes all of those things, but is infinitely greater than anything that this world could offer. Who journals? Put a 1 if you journal. Put a 2 if you meditate. Put a 3 if you do silent walks in nature. Like, who sits with the stuff inside of themselves? That's what I'm wanting to know. So 1 if you journal, 2 if you're a meditator, 3 if you're like, well, I go into nature or I go on walks. Christy is a nature walker. How did I know that, Christy? Me too. So is Candy. Juliet says 1, 2, 3. All of the above. Same with Charlotte. Candy's her journaler. Tim, nice. So meditation, silent walks in nature, journaling, it's the time where you can go in to find the gold. You know, my spiritual teacher says all the time, people spend their entire lives searching in the external world, trying to feel whole again, trying to figure out what's missing, what feels off within me. Is it the car that's going to get it, the relationship, the kid, the pet, the house, the best, you know, vacation? And they're constantly disappointed, little bits of joy and then disappointed again because they're looking in the wrong place. It's like the beggar asking and asking and asking for money, looking for wealth externally, not realizing I'm sitting on gold. You are sitting on gold. Inside of you is this. It is everything. Everything is just sitting there waiting for you to discover it. It's absolutely beautiful. So how do we do it? Well, you journal. Right? You reflect on the thoughts that you're having. Like just this morning, some of you are on my team with ASEA, some of you are not. But on my ASEA call this morning, we were talking about how you can take a moment. Maybe you have a bad interaction with someone. Step back and go, okay, why did I respond that way? What would have been a more skillful way to respond? What is actually within me? Right? It's this reflective part. And if you want to get ahead in life, you've got to reflect on these things, right? You've got to take space to go inward because that's where the gold is, right? There's no other way to get there. Meditation gets you there. You know, these techniques that I learned will get you there. Silent walks in nature will get you there. Showers. My boyfriend, I can't tell you how many times he's like, oh, Like it came to me in the shower because everything was quiet, right? There was no distractions. Juliet says, I find joy in the garden. Yeah, I started gardening too. I got to figure it out though because it's hot in Florida. Like, I don't know the best time of day to garden. Got to get up early, I think. So did anyone get stuck? On page 10, he says, using the word being, some people get confused by what that means. Did anyone get stuck, or did everyone understand what he means by the being? The being is that, like in our analogy, it's the one on the beach, right? That's your beingness. It's the witness. It's the observer. It's the non-changing aspect of you that is there before, during, and after the thoughts. That's what he's getting at with the being. And if you have never experienced that, Yoga Nidra, so Tina had a question with this. So Yoga Nidra, guided meditation, gets you there. I have a free one on my website, brainbodyself.com. Go to the self tab, SELF. And it literally takes you out of the mind. So you can disidentify from the boat, from the thoughts, and get into that space of being. So many people, when I guide Yoga Nidras, because I do privates, I've done group classes, I've done tons of things with it. So many times people say to me, I think I was just asleep. And I'm like, no, you weren't asleep. Your mind was quiet. And the only time that your mind has ever been quiet before is when you've fallen asleep. But this is the being. You were being. There was no doing. There was no mind. You were just simply being. That's what he's talking about. And so as you go through the book, that's the space that he's talking about. And I want to we'll wrap here. We didn't finish this whole section, but I want to share with you. I put this on today for a reason. It's the Om symbol. And who here knows what this represents? Does anybody know? So the Om, like the part that kind of looks like a 3, it's the waking, dreaming, and sleeping state, right? The state that the mind is involved in. It's awake, it can, be asleep, and it can dream. And then there's this part. There's this little line, looks like a little curve with a dot above it. And that, they say, is the veil. The veil of where we get misidentified thinking that the waking, dreaming, and sleeping state is all there is. It is who I am, right? That's the mind thinking, well, that's all there is and that's who I am. But what they say is, no, you are that dot. You are the being that is there before, during, and after all of those states. And in fact, that being has come into these states to experience waking, dreaming, and sleeping, right? What it's like to be in this world. And we can get back there. There's like a secret trap door. Okay? That's what Yoga Nidra brings. That's the trap door he fell through that's within you that takes you back to the truth of who you are, takes you back to that being. So you can be in this world realizing you're not of the world. You are actually that dot. They call it the state of Turiya. So I can teach you from what I know, but it's a powerful symbol. And it's exactly, when I was reading this, I was like, oh, he became the dot. Like, he disidentified from all the stuff he wasn't and became who he actually is. And I think this book is just going to be filled with stuff. And today was the first day, so maybe I bit off more than we could all chew with what we could get through in a half hour. But we're going to finish chapter 1, wherever that is in your book. I think for most of us, that's page 26. We're going to read to page 26. As you have insights, if there's more that you want to add to the conversation from this week, please reply in Telegram. If you are not on Telegram, please reach out to me. Just send me a message, and we'll get you into that chat. But this is going to be fruitful, guys. Type of 1, if today was helpful, insightful, you learned something new, it got deeper for you, it's making more sense now. There's so many of you on. We have over 20 of us that joined us on various platforms. So I'm glad that you're here. Stacy's saying yes. Lou's saying yes. I'm glad that it's resonating. We'll be back next week. So Christy's saying yes. One with a lot of exclamation points from Shelly, from Steph. Yeah, from Tina. 1+ from Candy. Very, very good. Okay. Well, I am glad. I will continue to bring, my interpretations of all of this. Please bring yours. Bring your questions. Let's make Telegram, a place we can all continue to connect. And I'm sending you lots of love. And this week, right? Rest is this. See if you can't get rid of all the junk that is on top of your lake right now and remove it so you can reflect the light that you truly are. All right. Lots of love. Bye, everybody.